Well, happy Halloween, everybody. It's part 2 of the Week 9 preview here on the Audible. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, or The Crow and Frankenstein. Although I look like King Diamond who overslept. But either way,
Yeah.
we'll get into that. That's for a different show. It is a Broncos show because it's Broncos in Baltimore. It is Baltimore's defense being terrible. We're going to start on the Broncos side. Can Bo Nix be better? As people around the league have told me, he could look like Drew Brees in this game. Okay. I won't say that necessarily, but there's fantasy GMs out there that are excited about picking up Bo Nix with the way that he's been playing. And Cortland Sutton, of course, maybe Adam Troutman that could continue, but I'm not projecting that. And then we'll see if Javonte can do much of anything. But the Baltimore Ravens defense is very weak. The Broncos offense is not very strong. See who wins the slap fight.
Yeah, right. Well, and this is very relevant to the man on I-25 that I saw on the billboard. That this is the moment when maybe Denver fans should get excited. If they can win this game, if they can win this game, then maybe there's something to this. Because some of the you beat Carolina, congratulations. You beat Las Vegas, congratulations. But this bad pass defense, and you see some of these pieces now, like you said, Sutton, Troutman, even this may be the Jaleel McLaughlin game, and some of this is Sean Payton in the game plan, because this is one of those situations where you want to go out and throw the ball 40 times, or at the very least, you want the ball to stay in Bo Nix's hands on a lot of plays. So for fantasy, it's very exciting. I think Bo Nix is a quarterback you might consider playing over quarterbacks we never would have, like, Patrick Mahomes, even against Tampa Bay. Like, why are we waiting around for that when we saw Bo Nix put up a good game in a game we expect him to do that? We expect that. And maybe Troy Franklin can catch a deep ball in this one. Maybe Marvin Mims can show us what we saw that was so promising early last year. And this can be the game where it all comes together. And this can be the game when we start to really take Denver seriously.
Yes, take them seriously and then fear Baltimore. Now, the Broncos defense is very strong. The Baltimore Ravens offense is elite. And the problem is the Ravens are strongest where the Broncos are weakest in terms of inside linebackers covering tight ends, plural, receiving backs out of the backfield. Justice Hill wheel route. It's just waiting right now. And oh, yeah, Derrick Henry. This team struggles to stop the run. They just really haven't been challenged as much as they could be by a man like King Henry.
Yeah, and the other side of this is where Baltimore says, "Come on, Ting, Nat, you're a Nat. You're not actually a real playoff team. You're not a real Super Bowl contender. We are." And yeah, Derrick Henry is absolutely the point of the spear for that, but also Lamar Jackson, and also all the ways that this offense puts defenses in conflict. So including Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, maybe Rashad Bateman deep. And the other thing we'll say here again is, it took a day, but I think the fantasy football community finally figured out Deontay Johnson's not going to play a big role. No, certainly not this week. But even going forward, Deontay Johnson is depth for this team. So don't expect there to be a lot of changes to this offense. Deontay Johnson is more of a injury backup for this team than someone that's going to step into a big role, because they don't need him, because this is an offense that is stocked, even though the record doesn't match how difficult this team is to stop.
Yes, that's for sure. Both of these teams started 0-2. Both of these teams are 5-3. So we'll see who wins out. Jacksonville and Philadelphia, our next game to talk about. And Jacksonville's side, it's pretty simple. Philadelphia side, it's always a little bit complicated. But let's talk Jaguars first, Bloom, and the backfield split. Is Evan Ingram going to do anything? And basically for me with Jacksonville, it's like, whose final game is with the Jaguars this week? And of course, praise. Have you seen the Randy Moss comparisons in terms of numbers to Brian Thomas? It's outstanding, and Thomas beats him.
Yeah, Brian Thomas. And will he play? Will he not play? We'll see. Obviously, if he's on the field, he's in your lineup. And Evan Ingram could be the most valuable tight end. Evan Ingram without Christian Kirk, massively valuable tight end, except Parker Washington. Let's not forget Parker Washington. And Parker Washington could be a player that we look back and say, well, why didn't we just expect him to not even do what Christian Kirk did, but maybe do more than Christian Kirk did, because this is a player that they have liked going back to the summer. So this is going to be a game, especially if Brian Thomas isn't out there, that Parker Washington could have a big game. And then there's Travis Etienne. This is one of the situations where I still don't see it with Etienne. They're loyal to him like a true lead back. If he's back, and he should be back, I guess he's a flex play, but there's things that Tank Bigsby does better as a runner. I would hope he'd have a more dedicated role. I'm not seeing a sign that they're going to do that, no matter how well Bigsby plays. May not matter in this one because Philadelphia's offense plays the way they've been playing. It's not going to be much of a running game for Jacksonville.
And that's Jalen Hurts, and Saquon Barkley, and more Jalen Hurts, right?
Yeah.
So Philadelphia momentum at home, and it's not necessarily a gimme game. I don't like saying that, Bloom, but it's a gimme game.
It is, because Jacksonville's had some moral victories this year, like last week against Green Bay, but those only get you so far. And Philadelphia is in the good position of getting better as we get to the midpoint of the season. For fantasy, there's not a lot of subtlety here. I mean, it's Hurts, it's Barkley, it's A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith after what he did last week. Just don't blow this game, Eagles. You want to quietly build momentum, not a lot of expectations after they let everyone down last year following the barely Super Bowl loss. Maybe by the time we get to the playoffs, they'll be hitting their stride and show everybody that they can actually follow up and maybe get back there.
Chicago Bears, Arizona Cardinals, and I just want to see Kyler Murray's dad and Caleb Williams' dad slap fight, because they've been the problems for those two, or can be. Helicopter dads. Let's not try that, everybody. How about that? Bears side first, Bloom, and of course we know after their embarrassing. Really, it's just embarrassing the way that they lost in a Hail Mary. It's a Hail Mary, but Tyreek Hendrickson, probably made that a little bit worse. Stevenson, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's how do they bounce back at this one on the road against Arizona? That's probably my larger question. We already know who you would look to in this Chicago offense anyway.
Yeah, it's a good moment for Caleb Williams and for the Bears as a Caleb Williams team. Again, teams take on the personality of their head coach and their quarterback. I'm not really sure what personality they would be absorbing from Matt Eberflus, but with Caleb Williams, we saw disgust, I guess would be the best word for his
Yeah.
reaction to the Hail Mary. He was
Oh, yeah.
disgusted. Do you make that productive disgust? We'll see. There's some veterans on this team to maybe add to that. But mostly it's going to be DeAndre Swift. And we haven't taken enough time to recognize what DeAndre Swift has done. I think he's got 4 straight 100-yard games now. Probably the running back next to Saquon Barkley, most likely to break, or Jahmyr Gibbs, an explosive play every week. You're going to see a play where the rest of the defense is looking at the back of his jersey. And this team wanted to be a run-first team. And DeAndre Swift, after 2 weeks, looking like everyone's saying, throw him to the curb. No, he's actually carrying this offense. Now, going into the bye, Caleb Williams is playing better. And we were saying, we know we're going to get the upside of DJ Moore. Well, we're looking for that now. Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. Maybe if you want to play Allen or Odunze, you would hope for a shootout. But the Bears defense has something to say about that. But Kyler Murray having his best day as a passer with Marvin Harrison coming on also has something to say about that. So maybe this could be a game defined not by the quarterback's dads, not by the defenses, not even by the running games, but by the quarterbacks.
Yeah, and they're wide receivers. They're very talented wide receivers and tight end in
Yeah.
Arizona with Trey McBride. But it's a emergence of Marvin Harrison Jr. Does that continue this week? Do they continue to make beautiful music together? And that could help you decide on what you're doing with Kyler Murray.
Last week, it looked like this is all starting to come together because you have James Conner, the workman-like back, the lunch pail back, doing work. You've got Marvin Harrison utilized better. You've got Trey McBride owning the middle of the field. And you've got Kyler Murray, who at least a few times a game will pull a rabbit out of a hat and really frustrate a defense, where those plays where the defense does everything right and they still lose the play. So Chicago is a really good test to see, is this going to stick? Is this potentially going to be the realization of an offense and a lot of fantasy implications if this happens? Or does Chicago bring them back down to earth? And it was really just Miami's defense. And it was really just for a half, everything came together. But really, this is still an offense looking for that alignment that hasn't really been there except for that first half against the Rams when the Rams were in mid-collapse. So even though it's week 9, Cease, I think for both of these teams, we have a lot to learn, and they have a lot to learn about themselves.
Okay, get your popcorn ready, Bloom, because I know you're going to be dialed into this one. We won't be doing the post-game show yet, I don't think. But Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers. We'll talk about Jordan Love, who has optimism. He'll be out there. Put a pin in it. We'll get to it. Let's talk Lions football first. And with Lions football, it's roses. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And
Yeah,
it's Jared
yeah.
Goff dealing, right? Like they can blow you away. Now, they probably won't do that against Green Bay, especially in Green Bay. But Goff doesn't even have to do much, and they can beat you by a lot. So if he does have to do a little bit more, what does that look like against Green Bay in Week 9?
Yeah. Jacksonville's offense with injuries made Green Bay sweat in Green Bay last week, so maybe Detroit will be able to run them out of the building. First outdoor game for Jared Goff. Jared Goff in a big tier of quarterbacks. If someone said Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff this week, these are tough questions. Or even Bo Nix or Jared Goff, tough questions because they're going to run the ball first and foremost. They're going to run the ball. It's going to be Montgomery. It's going to be Gibbs. Of course, you're going to play Amon-Ra St. Brown, who keeps at least scoring touchdowns. And Sam Laporta, speaking of touchdowns, he had one last week finally. So you're going to play him. And Jameson Williams, we'll see about this weapons charge, team standing by him. And, you have Khalif Raymond and Tim Patrick is what the heck flexes. But another reason I think, and this is beautiful, I really do think, Cease, when we think about the flame of football, that the Lions, the Dan Campbell Lions, are the keepers of the flame. Like the true, pure love of football, embodying everything that professional football is about as a game. Because I asked Dan Campbell, what's the message for your team this week? You know what he said it was? Make sure you're wearing the right shoes. It's a game on grass. And he said, what could be better? An afternoon game, Lambeau Field. What could be better? The love of the game. The love of the game. What a joy it is. I hope that the football gods smile on the Lions because they're pure. And the right shoes, that tells me, Green Bay, you better be ready to stop the run in this one.
Magic shoes, Green Bay. How do they get it done? We have to talk about both. If it's this Malik Willis or Jordan Love, as of time of recording, obviously it's Halloween. We don't normally dress like this, Bloom, on camera, but okay. Packers with Love, Packers without Love. We know it'll look different, and Fantasy GM is going to have to be ready for that.
Well, we do dress like this on camera if you buy the Sorry Joe Plus subscription. If it's Jordan Love, then you're more likely to put in a Jaden Reed. You're more likely to put in a Romeo Dobbs, maybe even a Christian Watson. I think Tucker Kraft, depending on the other tight end you have, we're seeing what he can do on one play. And then, of course, it's Josh Jacobs. He's a little banged up. He said he's going to play, and Josh Jacobs is going to be central anyway. But if it's Malik Willis becomes an interesting play. Like if someone said Malik Willis is the starter in this game or Jared Goff, because you got to pass. I know you might not want to pass very often if it's Malik Willis, but Malik Willis has been growing as a passer, and Malik Willis seems to be very much in tune with the plays that Matt LaFleur is calling and the design of these plays and these receivers when we saw him earlier this year. And what's interesting about that is, again, they traded for him. It's like a Joshua Dobbs situation. They traded for him on the eve of the season, okay? And the other thing I want to mention about Malik Willis that I think is kind of fun is with this Anthony Richardson stuff, people are looking at the 21 to 23 quarterback classes and saying, ugh, carnage, right? The book is not closed on Malik Willis yet. And I think if he starts this one, he's going to remind people of that, maybe reward some fantasy teams to take a chance on him.
Let's talk LA Rams and Seattle Seahawks. 4 games down, 3 games to go here on Audible. Part 2 of the Week 9 preview. Rams side is just keep going to everybody you love because Cup's back and Puka's back and Kyron's extending his touchdown streak and Blake Corum's doing a little bit more. Yeah, okay. Do it again. Go. We know Rams this time on the road against Seattle. Yeah, start your studs, play your studs, go to your studs.
Yeah, indulge me for a second, Cease, because did you hear they're going to have a championship parade in Los Angeles? The Dodgers.
Yes, I did.
And interestingly enough, when you watch sports, you're looking for the story. It's all stories, the building block of the universe, stories and consciousness, like Cecil and I like to talk about. The story is you got to do the little things. You can be the beast, the hulking beast that everyone's afraid of, But if you don't honor the game and the little things, then it will undo you in the end. The little things become big things in the end at that level if you want to be a champion, right? Maybe there'll be another title parade in LA. I mean, the Rams aren't going to say no, right? This Rams team won a Super Bowl. Not that they don't have Aaron Donald, but why not? Why not the Rams? The way they played against the Minnesota team, which was in the Detroit hangover last week. But they're just getting started, right? Matthew Stafford and Clayton Kershaw, those guys connected. Well, I didn't even realize that when I started this whole take. LA, Dodgers, Rams. They're back. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nakua, Kyron Williams. That's your trio that is unbelievable for fantasy football right now. And Matthew Stafford, another one. Matthew Stafford might be a top 5 fantasy quarterback going forward. Why not? The way they played. Demarcus Robinson is a what the heck flex. But I think what we're watching for here is, usually in these NFC West matchups, no matter what the records are, no matter how teams are going, they can be dogfights. But if the Rams go up to Seattle and run them out of the building and play the way they did against Minnesota last week, we got to wake up to this Rams team as a Super Bowl contender because they looked like one last week.
Yes, they did. Now, Seattle side, we're watching the practice status of DK Metcalf with a little bit of a knee thing. The team is still optimistic, according to head coach Mike McDonald. Tyler Lockett limited with an oblique. Noah Fant limited with a groin. Again, it's Thursday morning, so we're just kind of waiting. But did you know that Geno Smith leads the NFL with 2197 passing yards and 274.6 passing yards per game? Who's he throwing to this week?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah, disappointment, right? DK Metcalf should be back. He should be in your lineup. And this Rams defense, again, the post Aaron Donald era, this is kind of like the Washington defense, where don't look at the names on the roster. Don't look at the names on the back of the jersey. Look at how they're playing as a unit. They're coming on. Okay. And the drafting that the triumvirate has done for LA in the third, fourth round, the contributions that they are getting from players from last year's draft. It's not just Puka Nakua, okay? Get to know these names: Byron Young, Kobe Turner. They are not missing a beat. And Seattle, at first it was like, ooh, they can be a pass heavy team. Ooh, they can be a run team. Well, now it's like they're not that great of a passing team, and they're not that great of a running team. Again, you wonder if the Rams are going to put them in a headlock in this one. You got to keep playing Kenneth Walker, but all that juice we got, well, he's going to make up for it in PPR. Well, it didn't happen last week. Is this going to be the new trend in the second half of the year? Yes, you're going to play DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, even in these pass heavy. You would cease if you said Geno Smith is leading the league in passing yards. Oh my God, if you took Jackson Smith and Jigba, you're loving it.
Nope.
No. So we'll see. This team looked like a team running out of gas last week, and unfortunately, they're facing a team that looks like they're ready to spread their wings.
It's the Colts with Joe Flacco, who has had 5 300-yard passing games over the last 8 regular season starts. He's also thrown multiple touchdowns in 8 straight regular season starts. He's back. The problem is Josh Downs with a toe, Michael Pittman with a back, my neck and my back. It's just his back. But either way, we know Joe Flacco can inject some life into this Colts passing attack, and Jonathan Taylor's on your team. It makes it real
Yeah.
nice to just hand off to that guy as much as possible. But Flacco's going to deal, man. He's going
Yeah.
to deal it out there.
Yeah, and Minnesota with 3 extra days to shrug off that Lions hangover. We'll see Brian Flores' defense. And look, Brian Flores and his blitz happy ways, that is the kryptonite for Joe Flacco. Okay. So this could be one of those games where we say, well, you thought Joe Flacco was going to make this team better than Anthony Richardson did, not against Minnesota. But then again, if Flacco can hang tough against the blitz and make good decisions, if Shane Steichen can dial up the right calls and put Joe Flacco in the right mindset for facing a Brian Flores offense, not that the Colts are going to be Super Bowl contenders, but at least you'll understand why those other 52 guys, and Justin Pugh put it out there, like when the other 52 guys are putting their bodies on the line every week, you want to win. For what? Just watch a quarterback develop? Well, they got the quarterback, and the universe continues to put Joe Flacco in the middle of such interesting stories. Going back to that Senior Bowl, whenever he wasn't very nice, and Troy Smith's illness, and Jim Caldwell, and so on and so forth, and then this Cleveland story, and now the Indy story. So for fantasy football, it's going to be a boom bust game for Flacco. But the boom, we've, like you said, 5 300-yard games, and we saw it. He was one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy football when he took over for the Browns.
Yep.
We've already seen it for 2 weeks when he was the Colts quarterback. So Josh Downs to the moon. Ooh, Michael Pittman, that's the thing. The back, Alec Pierce as Scott Barrett, love him, on the couch said, well, he might be the one player who's not helped by Joe Flacco, because that was the one thing Richardson was good at. But it is about Jonathan Taylor. And maybe all this focus on Flacco, now that Taylor is healthy again, this is Jonathan Taylor's offense. And this is a statement game, and another game sees where we're checking in on this team and seeing where they're at in the middle of some turmoil.
In middle of turmoil and adding Cam Robinson. Okay, yeah. And how do you bounce back? How do you stand strong after that? Well, come out there and play well at home against Colts team with Flacco that you should get after. And Flores with the blitzes, I still think in pressure terms, they're like 7th or 8th.
Mm-hmm.
So he blitzes all day. The number one pressure team is the Denver Broncos.
Yeah. Vance Joseph, everybody. Hey, this Minnesota team, we're going to say, was it the hangover for this offense? Or maybe are there some cracks showing with Sam Darnold? But I think you're going to see Darnold do really well in this one. And TJ Hawkins is going to be back. No restrictions on snap count. So put him in your lineup. Obviously, Justin Jefferson. And look, Jalen Naylor and Jordan Addison are true what the heck flexes, because it only takes one play, but they might only get one opportunity. But when those are the secondary receivers that you have to worry about, that's a problem. Jalen Naylor has legit deep speed. Jordan Addison knows how to get free. We saw it often last year when Kirk Cousins was the quarterback. So this could be a game when Minnesota runs them out of the building, runs the Colts out of the building, with also help from Aaron Jones, who has a few extra days to rest up. This home game, again, before that game against the Rams, we were saying Vikings, legit Super Bowl contender. This is where they can take that talk and say, no, don't let that talk die, because this is a very good, very balanced team.
Monday Night Football. It is Tampa Bay and Kansas City. Let's talk about the Buccaneers side, because without their receiving weapons, it's Bucky Irving, who has a toe, by the way. He's playing through it. But he'll get, 7 catches again, right? Cade Otton will do more. Jalen McMillan will do more. Baker will throw it 50 times against Kansas City, but Kansas City's defense, Uche, Bill Belichick defending his guy, saying like, hey, they're not using him right. And now Kansas City, they got a pass rush, something they're strong defense. They have a strong defense. They weren't rushing the passer well. You add an Uche, now you can rush the passer well. So Baker holding up to that, and then the 3-headed backfield that seems to be less Sean Tucker now. Again, Bucky with the toe. We'll see how that works out.
Right.
But Tampa Bay's got their work cut out for them at Arrowhead.
Yeah, Josh Uche. Why is it that everybody is better when they're in a Chiefs uniform? Speaking of the Dodgers, that's what happens when these teams are in these championship eras. They get the best out of a player. And by the way, going back to the Cam Robinson thing, at least Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is addressing the need when Christian Darrisaw goes down. Well, who's the best tackle we can get on the trade market? If it's only Cam Robinson, let's get Cam Robinson. The Chiefs didn't exactly have a problem with their pass rush, but you never have enough pass rushers. And we love Baker Mayfield. We love Baker Mayfield as a quarterback who showed, even without his top 2 receivers for fantasy, he's not going to go away. But we also love him, and I'm going to go like boxing here. He could get knocked down as a boxer. He's like the boxer who could get knocked down 4 times, and he's still going to keep throwing punches, and he's still going to keep swinging wildly and still keep trying to win. And that's going to be interesting here. It's the running backs, Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. They're both running back 2 flex plays, especially in PPR leagues. Cade Otton, that was the correct answer to which pass catcher to pick up. It wasn't a receiver, but watch Raheem Jarrett, who came on and was making some plays downfield, had a good training camp until he got hurt. And it seemed like he maybe is providing that downfield punch. And then there's Jalen McMillan. The plays were there. Will the plays come together? It's a tough Kansas City defense. And this could be one where instead of getting to throw more and more punches to try to keep his team in the game, maybe Baker Mayfield gets knocked out against one of the best defenses in the league. The question is, can the Kansas City offense, finally start to look like a good offense?
Yeah. Will they look like a good offense, or will it just be continuing to feed Travis Kelce? But that's good. They're
Right.
defeated. So whatever they're doing, it's working. Pat Mahomes just threw his first touchdown in October a few days ago.
Right.
All right. It's not going to be October anymore when you play this game on Monday night. Go out there, do your thing. And of course, Kareem Hunt, well, he'll get a heavy workload, Bloom. What does he do with it?
Right. He'll get a touchdown, but, we'll see. Continue to watch to see if Isaiah Pacheco could be back before the end of the year. If Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a good fantasy game against the team that gave up 4 touchdowns to Kirk Cousins twice, against the team that gave up 500 yards to Kirk Cousins, then we're not going to get any more Patrick Mahomes or questions for fantasy football. You can be the quarterback and the most important piece of a dynasty and still not have fantasy value. I guess that's the strange puzzle that we are trying to get through, because Tampa Bay and their pass defense, if it don't happen on Monday night, it's not going to happen. How could it happen? More DeAndre Hopkins. He's a what the heck flex this week, but he also could show, with Juju Smith-Schuster still nursing that hamstring, that he actually can still play that role and that he can be the key to opening things back up for this pass offense, including Xavier Worthy. And I think Xavier Worthy is one of those guys that you err on the side of playing Xavier Worthy, as we've seen Tampa giving it up in the past game. This could be another primetime showcase for the first round pick, for the player that was going to give them that vertical dimension that we haven't seen often enough this year.
All right, that is a wrap for part 2 of the Week 9 preview here on the Audible. Everyone have a safe and happy Halloween. Sigenstein, Blumenstein, Frankenbloom. What are we
Fire
calling it?
bad. Phil Hartman, rest in peace.
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's right. You could say Doug Peterson bad. Right? There we go.
Woo.
Can't rain all the time. He's Sig. I'm Cease. Stay tuned. Watch the videos. Stay frosty, baby.